fundamental no to life. While in meditation, I came in contact with a very deep sense of saying no to life, to the experience of each moment. It actually feels more like a way of perceiving experience rather than a felt sense. It felt so fundamental to the way I'm experiencing life that it felt like I had no choice but to see life in this way. And this is probably constantly running in the background, but I needed to be very still in order to become conscious of it. I'd be grateful to receive some insight around this from Steve and Joe about how we could work with this and what possibly brought it about. Is it a result of unexpressed anger, lack of love for my mother, other unmet emotional needs? Thanks. Um, and then I'm just going to read just so it makes more sense because I asked him if he could give me an example. And he said, so in my everyday life, I feel like I'm very quick to doubt people, to feel an opinion is wrong or incomplete. Like whatever I eat could be a bit better. I'm constantly trying to fix things, improve them. Things need to be exciting to the point of making me anxious. Otherwise, I'm bored and agitated. There's probably more there, but I think that's enough examples. Okay, so let me just do you have something, Joe?
Um, I'm just thinking, nothing like very clear initially, but some things that came to mind were um that saying no to life is a very fearful thing to do. You know, it's a very like sort of protective um mechanism to not allow the vulnerabilities of maybe what saying yes or just allowing, you know, the sort of natural emotional response to sort of come through would be. Um, and this like consistent position of doubt and incompleteness. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. Is anything there for you?
Yeah, let me just see here. Like something that came to my mind is so obviously it's like every answer we have to start with this is absolutely normal. Uh, but it's like it's not that there's anything wrong that needs to be fixed in that sense. But yeah, that's kind of a good point to make. It's like everything that we think is wrong with us doesn't actually make us wrong. It's just that what you want is to be suffering less. So I don't know if that's clear. It's like it's not like imagine like this problem that Tony has, right? It's right here in my hand. And then it's like this is not like wrong, it's just pain. So I just wanted to make that clear. And yeah, let me try to something came and then I forgot. Oh, that the description that he gave me the example where there's a lot of activity happening. And that's the image in my mind. It's like I'm very quick to doubt people. This opinion is wrong. I could be like there's this like constant activity. And I think that this is sort of, I don't know if it's correct to say flight or fight mode almost. It's like there's this like agitation, like he said, he used that word. And I'm just trying to think. It's like we're kind of like stumped.
I think
Um,
it's because an example that I don't necessarily relate directly to in my own experience. So I'm just trying to pick up on what I can. I think another thing that sort of popped out to me was the sort of question of where it came from. I don't think that's necessarily a direct thing I'd be able to answer, but I know that that's the general desire to have answers to these things can be a bit of a distraction as well. I know it's like really unsatisfying to hear that like the reasons don't matter necessarily. As in like you once you've seen the pain and you've seen what it is, it's there for you to work with. And maybe the reason or the like what happened might reveal itself through the processing, but getting caught up with examining. um I heard a good analogy once, which is like you're almost like throwing up this like repressed emotion, then you have all this like junk, and then our egos want to take a magnifying glass out and start looking at it and examining it and like labeling it. Whereas you've already, you're already in the process of doing the important thing. Um, but yeah, that was just for that final tacked on question.
And I was just gonna the question like where did it come from? Th- I think the most direct thing to say is that all of our problems, all of our issues and things that are difficult for us literally is coming from three sources. And it's like all of the tears you haven't cried, all of the anger you haven't released, and fear is a tricky one because it's harder to access. So either in a long meditation you can feel fear coming up, but it's like that's like three different emotions, the main emotions that we suppressed. And so the more think of it like someone that had a really severe, like severe abuse. Like it's more rare, where it was so severe, and then you notice that the person, maybe even physically, they seem a little bit off. Like they have like maybe tics and they're shaking. That is like the most extreme example of a burdened nervous system, right? And all of that is just a unbelievable amount of suppressed emotions. So this sort of thing that's happening, this constant activity, you could call it very chaotic, is coming from that. So the simple answer is to, just work with the emotions, release them. But the other thing I was going to say, it's kind of hard because sometimes I don't know what to say. Like awareness also comes to mind, where I'm not sure if like how much experience he has with his awareness. Maybe I could talk a little bit about that. Um, you know, you could practice awareness in meditation, but I think the easiest way, the most like day to day, you can do it all the time to practice awareness, which is this ability to observe. So observe all of this activity as a witness. And how you do this, and I mean, it can be boring. That's why you have to have a lot of will and interest in this stuff because you have to do it so many times. Um, if you're watching a video and you see your attention, let's say there's a person in the video speaking, your attention is going to that. What are they saying? Awareness is the ability to be watching the person. It's a multitasking. It's like the ultimate multitasking. And as you're watching the person speaking in the video, there is this thing, awareness, that's watching you. So if the person says something that you don't like, you will notice in the same moment that you heard them speaking those words, you'll say, wow, look at this anger, this little bit of anger here, or these very negative thoughts. And it sounds so simple that every human being should be doing this, and almost nobody's capable of this. They're absolutely lost in either what they're looking at or their thoughts, and there's no observing this stuff, right? So that may be helpful to practice. So it's like you're always kind of asking yourself, what am I thinking in this moment? What am I feeling? It's like a pulling away your attention away from what you're looking at, what you're listening to what's going on within. And you can do it back and forth. You listen to the person, how am I feeling? Oh, and then they keep talking. Oh, there's this now, and there's more. And this requires so much practice because, like I said, your mind will pull your attention away from watching. It's very difficult. Um, do you have something?
Yeah, I just wrote a quick note, which was although the exact experience I'm not familiar with in my own experience with anything like Steve said, what you can also do because you've noticed this now is to approach it with open curiosity, and you can maybe sit with some of these examples as they come up because inevitably, whatever it is, it all comes down to the same thing. You'll do this, and then there'll be some repressed emotion, and there'll be some processing. Whatever it is, it all sort of comes down to that. But now you've seen this, so that's like a big thing, and the fact that it had to happen in stillness, as you wrote, shows how maybe deep and consistent it is in your moment-to-moment experience. So maybe you might get the opportunity to notice this more frequently, and then you can start to um, experiment or play with it. If you see a time where you're particularly saying no to something, I'll just use one of the examples that you gave. Um, um, yeah, so like when you're eating something and you think it could be a bit better, maybe sit with that thought and what comes up, when you're looking at your meal and you're thinking like this could be better. Um, Notice what's happening in your body, see if you can challenge it perhaps, or just um yeah, you can experiment with it, and see like where greater or less discomfort comes. Um, because inevitably, if you sit with something for long enough, it will start to show more of itself. So it'll start, if it starts like this, you'll start to see a bit more. And then there might be some, not answers in like, where did this come from, but answers to like, what's this protecting me from? Because if this is like a default mechanism of yours in particular, it's probably keeping you safe from your nervous system and egoic perspective, from feeling something that you've since childhood felt unsafe to feel. You know, maybe if this like saying no mechanism isn't there, then that opens the door to like a lot of anger or like a lot of sadness or something like that. Um, yeah.
And so I was going to add that long term, to make it like that, to really answer this as directly as possible, long term, the way that all of this chaos will become like it'll either maybe go away completely or you're just going to see a big difference. It's a lot less in your experience, is literally coming from crying and releasing anger, pretty much those two. So that's like the long term meaning. How is this going to be fixed? How am I going to see this become less? It's only by releasing emotions. Now, the other thing, while this is still your experience, what I was going to say is first I talked about awareness, right? So in the example that you gave, I'm quick to doubt people, to feel like an idea, an opinion is wrong. So this awareness thing, it's so fascinating because the more that you notice that you're able to observe like a witness, the more that you can see that, for example, thinking that an idea is wrong, when you're watching that as a witness, you'll see that that's made up. It is literally just a thought in your mind. I know better than this person. They are wrong. When you are when awareness is not familiar to you, you kind of fully believe that. Like it's very serious. They're wrong. But when you zoom out in your awareness, you're like, wow, I can see that this is literally just a feeling in my body and a thought, like they're wrong, and I believe it. You can watch all of this activity. Now, when you become more familiar with awareness by practicing over and over, what I was going to say is what can also help. This is like another thing. So I said releasing emotions is what would kind of fix this, but something else that is a very high level of self-love is to allow all of this to happen and do it on purpose. So this can sound almost like it's not even a thing, but when you're doing that, when you're quick to doubt people and all this stuff, you're not really doing it on purpose. It is an activity in your mind that maybe you're kind of starting to notice. So if you're quick to doubt people and you have a little bit more awareness, then if you're not doing this at people, this is just happening in your own mind. I would embrace all of that as an experiment. So you look at someone and you think that they're completely wrong. Say it on purpose instead of this being just in your background. So it might be back here, oh, this person is completely wrong, but you're not really claiming it. And so I would claim it and I would maybe even say it out loud if nobody can hear you, like, that guy is completely wrong. Like he's just, and you can add whatever you want. He's an idiot. It doesn't matter. Embracing it, right? Instead of just, there's a huge difference between this stuff kind of floating in the background of your mind and you kind of going there and looking directly at it and saying it out loud. This is like a complete shift.
Yeah, that really actually is a great point, because that really makes me think it's just suppressing immense rage at every
Yeah.
point, because it's like this person is wrong would be the first thing to start saying, and then this person is a fucking idiot and I hate them for how wrong they are would be the next thing that comes. And that's very true for all of your examples, I think, Tony. This food could be better. This food is fucking disappointing. I wish I was at a five-star Michelin restaurant and I hate it here. It's very like natural next step. So I would definitely investigate that. that are all of these examples of saying no really judgments of discontent and anger? That the what other examples were there? Um, yeah, you doubt people, things could be better, trying to fix things. Exciting. Things need to be exciting. Yeah, like this isn't good enough. Everything is shit. Everything is not good enough for me. Um, yeah,
So
yeah.
I was going to add, it's funny, like as we're talking, then I think it's just a natural process of seeing deeper and deeper into it. Maybe it wasn't so obvious. Um, that this is actually about rage, which is what you said. So what's interesting is that the description of all of this chaos happening, right? Um, the actual truth of all of it, like let's say that you live an entire day of that from the moment you wake up and there's just agitation and agitation, right? This is actually kind of hell to like seriously, it's hell. I've had that so much when I was not very conscious, but I can remember. And then but you live a whole day like that, and when you get home, let's say from work, you've been agitated all day. And so I think this is a very important point to show what pretty much everybody in the world does. And it's sad because it makes life so difficult. You live your whole day, there's all these people speaking to you, then you get an email, you're having all sorts of emotional pain come up that you don't even realize, right? But as this agitation is happening, what's not being done is actually fully owning and realizing how much it bothers you. It bothers you so deeply. And think about how crazy this is. This is how people live in the world. The truth is that you want to scream pretty much. Like after a whole day that you're suppressing your emotions, your body is almost wanting to scream in pain and in agony and in agitation, and you're just nothing, right? You get home, there's no releasing of emotions, and then you cook dinner and you watch a movie and you nothing is happening. And so with all of this chaos, bringing it back to what Joe said about rage, releasing rage would be it's hard because I know you have to develop a relationship with your anger. It doesn't happen in 1 second. But what it will look like as you keep going is when things bother you. So it's crazy that you can't, in the beginning, you can't even notice how much it bothers you. And that's sort of the protect, like it's almost like a protection that is there in your consciousness. It's like you don't even notice it that much. The more attention you give to the fact that you're so angry for a million different reasons, the more you will feel it. And then when it becomes more obvious, then you can start releasing it when you're by yourself. And the most kind of extreme version of this, or when you've gone very deep into your anger, is that to release anger, you could literally just like shake like that for a few seconds, right? Sometimes I do it to the point where I feel like there's no more strength and then I have to stop. So that's to release that energy. And so think about how all of this chaos is happening because it's like a pressure cooker and there's a million emotions arising throughout the day and it's just not being released. And so this it's like a pressure cooker. And so if there's no releasing, the inside of it becomes chaos. So you see how it's completely related. And rage, maybe I'll talk about it later, is responsible for so many other things that I've discovered even in myself, like ADD, right? People think ADD is a mental illness, right? Oh, you're going to have this all your life. No, I've discovered that for me, it is actually related to rage and not releasing rage. Like emotions will literally take your attention away if they're a really huge amount and you're not giving attention to them and it's like a bomb that just wants to explode. Your attention, like I was filming a video and I was getting more frustrated that I didn't like what I was saying, and I had to keep re-recording. And then it started to happen after a very long time because usually it's easy nowadays for me to record. And what would happen is I would be holding my phone. I knew the first sentence that I had to say, and then the next sentence would disappear from my mind. I would forget. Why? Because I was getting so frustrated and there was no release. There was no acknowledging. I'm so angry. And so after a minute, I realized, oh my God, this is rage. And so what did I do? I stopped trying to film. I did that for a few seconds. I do some pretty extreme things. And a minute later, when I held the phone, I could actually just speak. My attention wasn't being taken away from me. And so that shows you just how much emotions affect us. And I mean, yeah, emotional suppression affects us.